What's up, everyone? Marc Lobliner, TigerFitness.com, alongside
Steve Shaw, editorial director at TigerFitness.com.
Notice we're jockeying for position right here. Anyway, we actually read an article, a hit piece on the IFBB and current bodybuilders by a competing publication that we felt the need to rebuttal. What's the proper word for that?
I rebutted this morning, Mark.
He rebutted the hell out of that.
I rebutted this weekend.
So anyway, the funny thing is that we read this, we're both like, wait, this is not right. So has bodybuilding lost its way? And Steve and myself, we've been fans of bodybuilding for a long time. You know, we're both older gentlemen. I'm in my mid-30s. He's in his mid-40s, I'd say.
Yeah, I'll be 48 in 2 weeks.
That's still in the middle. So our whole thing is we want to kind of explain why we defended bodybuilding as it is. And those metaphors you used about NASCAR and everything, and I figured instead of just doing a video on my own, I'd go to the man who wrote the piece, who I thought was one of the best written pieces in the industry history. Now, Steve, what's your opinion? Has bodybuilding lost its way?
Hey, Mark, I think bodybuilding is better than ever. I mean, the criticism from Arnold was that, you know, the mass monsters and the big guts and all that kind of stuff. But look, you know, from Arnold himself, this is kind of shocking because, you know, back in the day, Arnold was the mass monster. He was like 6'2", 6'3", or whatever.
He redefined the look.
Right, and you got guys like, even back in my day, Sergio Oliva, Tom Platz with those quads. Tom is a guy that inspired me to start lifting. Mm-hmm. It was Bertil Fox's bicep peak. It's always, the sport has always been about size. The size has always shocked. It's always motivated people. It's always motivated me to push my limits. Even as somebody who transitioned from bodybuilding to powerlifting, you know, one of the things I mentioned in the article is that, yeah, Frank Zane had amazing aesthetics, and we all appreciate that. But the shock value, really, the shock value in bodybuilding is what has always driven the sport, and therefore I believe it's stronger than ever.
Now, I also wanted to go into something that they brought up in the article, in the alternative piece, that it's the guts and the bellies and the this and the that. And then I was sitting in the front row at the Olympia, and let me just go over what they're rewarding now. Phil Heath did not have a distended gut on stage.
Nope.
Dexter Jackson, one of the tightest waists in bodybuilding history.
He looks great.
Sean Roden.
Looks awesome.
Shredded, no distended gut, okay? Dennis Wolf, again, no distended gut. No signs of distended guts. I mean, obviously when they're relaxed, yeah, okay, they're not going to be as tight as they are when they're flexed. But again, these guys weigh upwards of 260 to 300 pounds. Big Rami at 315 pounds. Tight, small, hard waist. Now, there are guys, there was a guy on stage, I think it was from Poland, who looked like he was about to give birth to triplets. But where did he place? Exactly, he didn't place. They're not rewarding mass monsters. They're not rewarding GH bellies. Bodybuilding has not lost its way. Bodybuilding has simply evolved. Steve, the NASCAR, you know, it's like, it's unhealthy, it's this, it's that. Have you guys ever heard of Dale Earnhardt? If he was going 100 miles per hour, he would have won. He would have lived. But he was going 200 miles an hour. Anytime sports get faster and bigger and stronger, and NFL players, why do you think you're getting all concussions now versus back in the day? Sure, they're being diagnosed more, and we actually record them. But have you ever thought that the average lineman weighed about 220 pounds in the 70s and 60s? Now they weigh over 300 pounds. They're running faster than ever, head first at each other. Anytime things progress, the risk goes up.
Yeah, you can try to restrict size, whatever that means, by judging, but guys are always going to look for an advantage. This is a body sport. You know, you have supplements, you have
Sorry, that fucked me up.
But you can restrict size. Guys it's gonna go down a different avenue of extreme. They're gonna get leaner. They're gonna look for every advantage you can. So whatever way you think you're going to restrict the sport, if you restrict size, they're gonna go for more leanness, more conditioning. They're gonna look for whatever physical advantage they can get. Now I ask you, what do you want to see? You want to see guys bigger? Or would you rather see smaller guys looking more lean?
Yeah, may I just interject real quick? If you want to see smaller, more aesthetic guys who don't carry the mass and don't weigh 260 on stage, but weigh like even the best of the best is 195, why not just go to an OCB show? Why not go to the Yorton on October 24th? If you want to see that, we already have something for you. And it's called the OCB. It's called the IFPA. It's called Natural Bodybuilding.
And on that subject, Mark, natural bodybuilding is bigger than ever. Bigger than ever. Yeah. You hear this argument in powerlifting too. Is powerlifting dead? Is bodybuilding dead? These sports are bigger than ever. And not only that, but because of Arnold, because of Sergio, because of Phil Heath, because of Jay Cutler,
and now Big Ramy.
Yeah, all these guys, there's more people out there than ever lifting weights.
And let's not forget Kai Green. Him and Phil, their battle for superiority has been one of the most, it's right up there with the Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. It's fantastic to see. So I really want to point out that bodybuilding is not dead, and there are alternatives. And instead of saying bodybuilding is dead, if you really think that, go support the IFPA. But if you want to see the biggest, nastiest, most shredded guys who don't have bloated guts, if I was Phil Heath and I was Kai Green and I was Dennis Wolf and I was anybody in the top 7 who did not have guts, I was there at the Mr. Olympia, I would go up to that other site and I would curse them out, and I would probably slap my penis on their table, because that's just an offensive thing to say, that bodybuilding's lost its way, when the top 6 at the Olympia are not only mass monsters, but they've managed to control their waists and they come in condition. Look, Arnold never had shredded glutes. Okay, not only are these guys holding onto the mass, but they're also coming in condition, and you guys are talking like drugs didn't exist. I said drugs, not other supplements. Sorry, Steve. I know you're trying to keep this PG. But Arnold had drugs. In fact, it's known fact, and they've admitted to this, they didn't even count how many D-bol pills they took half the time. They take a handful of them like Pez and just pop them in their mouth. And it's like, well, Menser kept a documented log. He did. Menser was one of the few. Do we really know what the hell these guys were taking back then? Do we really know it? So and if you want natural bodybuilding, we have natural bodybuilding. If you don't like the mass monsters, go to the Yorton Cup on October 24th. Support that. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to the Yorton and I'm going to the Olympia and I'm going to the Arnold. You know why? Because I'm a fan of the sport, and the sport has not lost its way. You know who's lost its way? You've lost your way. You know who I'm talking about.
I have my way.
He has the isolate. You've lost your way in that you've turned your back on the industry, and you've turned your back on bodybuilding. Because another company outbid you for title sponsorship, you decided to wage war against what we have. And you know what? I will stand for taking down a corporation. I will stand for you taking shots at Mannion and the NPC and the IFBB. But once you start really taking shots at Phil Heath and Kai Green by saying that the guys who win have bloated guts, shame on you.
Let's say theoretically, Mark, you started a new federation and you wooed.
This is in theory, right?
In theory. Because this would never happen.
This is theory, speculation.
It would never happen.
Speculation.
Yeah. And let's say you started a new federation and you didn't want the big mass monsters, so the guys were a little bit smaller, a little bit less impressive. And how long do you think that would last?
Remember when the 212 was the 202s?
Uh-huh.
How long did that last? 2 years?
Yeah. Anybody remember Vince McMahon?
WBF?
The WBF.
And that really
They had mass monsters and they couldn't even compete.
Here's the bottom line. Obviously, you're going to promote a smaller physique when all the big guys aren't going to jump ship. They're not. So you know what? You can have your little playtime over there. You can go ahead and bash the IFBB and the NPC. At the end of the day, I support bodybuilding. I don't support an organization or a publication coming out to benefit themselves and trashing what we have. And that's why we've taken the stance we have. Look, I've been the biggest critic of the NPC and the IFBB ever. Search my videos. Go ahead. However, in this case, I think it's unfounded. I think it's unjust, and it's taking a shot at my friends, the Kai Greens of the world, the Phil Heaths of the world. And that's why I'm kind of upset. Bodybuilding has not lost its way. It's not lost its way, but you're painting a picture of it losing its way, and it's evolution. Arnold was the biggest thing they saw back in the day. Who was before him? Reg Park? You think Reg was half the size of Arnold? I bet you people back then were saying, oh, that's just unattainable. That's just too big.
Hey, I mean, we all respect Steve Reeves, but if Steve Reeves would have never made it in Hollywood, I mean, would we really be talking about him? Would we really remember him much? I mean, seriously.
And it's just one of those things that I look at it and I'm like, look, you know what? We get it. We get that you're trying to set a new organization. But I'm not going to stand by and watch you trash our competitors who've brought in the small waists, who've brought in the cuts, who've brought in the shreds. And I'm not going to sit there because of a bad business move or whatever and watch this happen. Bodybuilding hasn't lost its way. Go support bodybuilding, support the Olympia, support the Arnold, support the Yorton, support NABA, support those organizations because they support you.
And give me the mass monsters.
because well, basically fabricating a bunch of BS that isn't true just to take a jab at someone, that's not a game.